If you shoot your video onto a video cassette, then you need to capture that video into Premiere Pro to work with it. Now, there are a couple of different formats out there. There's SDI and DV. We're going to focus on DV. That's the more consumer, prosumer level format. SDI tends to be for more professional formats. And if you work with SDI, then the process is similar. But again, we're going to stick with DV. If you work with analog video, then the process is a little more complicated. You need to connect your analog camera to a digital video camcorder and transfer the video over that way, and then bring it in via your digital video camcorder, or use an analog to DV converter and bring it in that way. In any event, if you have an analog camera, you can't control the camera remotely using Premiere Pro. You have to do it from the camera itself, and the capturing process is a little more manual that way. So we're going to focus on the digital video side of things where you can control the camera from within Premiere Pro. So if you want to connect your DV camcorder to your computer, you do that via a FireWire cable. And you turn your camera on to playback or VCR, and then you plug the camera into the computer via FireWire. Let me show you what happens when you do that here in Windows. You get this little autoplay thing, and it lets you start Premiere Pro from autoplay. Something similar will happen on a Mac. And so to make sure we're on the same page, I'm just going to close this down and open up Premiere Pro. Now, you don't have to open up Premiere Pro yourself unless you have a camcorder and want to follow along. Otherwise, this will just be a demo. Let me open up Premiere Pro now. And I want to start a new project. I'll just call it Capture, I guess. And we'll go to the My Exercise folder. So there you go, and click. All right, and click OK. And we'll just skip past that. And now we're inside Premiere Pro. So if we want to capture, we go to File, Capture. This is the capture window or capture dialog box, and it says stopped, and that's a good thing. It means that your camcorder is connected. It recognizes your camcorder there, and you can control the camcorder from within this dialog box or from in this panel. The first order of business is to go to Settings. Here you can see the capture format will be DV, and we can edit this if we want, but that's just fine. We can store the file where we want. This is where we can choose the file storage, wherever it's going to be. It can be on the current hard drive we're using or any other hard drive. And the audio will be stored in the same place or someplace else, but since you're storing the video file is audio associated with it directly, so you're not bringing in audio separately. So wherever you put the video is where the audio will go as well. And here's the device control. This is a sort of a vanilla version of the DV device control, but you can go to Options and find your camcorder here if you want. But there's really no reason to do that for most camcorders. The camcorders work just fine, basically from one camcorder to the next. So that's Settings. We'll do that. Now we go over to Logging. There are a couple of ways to bring video in using a capturing process. You can log based upon time codes and bring in one shot at a time, or you can log several clips and then batch capture, or you can have the computer recognize scenes wherever you press the Start-Stop button, the Record and Pause button, and it can import one scene at a time and bring in whatever number of scenes you've got. So it'll capture one, capture the next, capture the next. So let me show you the manual method first. I'm going to click play here. There's a scene right there, let's say. I'll pause it. First of all, I'm going to give the tape a name so that the computer will recognize this tape down the road. So I'll call this demo like that. And I'll give the clip a name that we're going to log. I'll call it clip 01. I can give it a description or something like that, but I won't. I'll just set the in point there. Now I'm going to play it for a while. There you go. And I'll set that as the out point. Now that I've done that, I can capture the in to the out. That just is a manual process. It'll rewind the tape, it'll go to the in point, and then it'll capture that little bit of video. And it'll store it on the hard drive, and then it'll put a link to that inside the project panel. Here we go. It's capturing that clip. And now it's done. And we can add more information to it, but we'll just accept the default here. We called it clip 01 and we're done. And notice it shows up right away inside the project panel. So it stored it on the hard drive and created a link to it here automatically. Now I can log several clips. I can go and log another one now, let's say. I'll go along here a little bit farther. There's the first one I'll log. I'll say that's set in for that. I'll go forward a little ways. Pause button, and we'll set out for that. Now I'm obviously not being very precise about this. I'm just doing this as an example. So I'll log that clip, and it incrementally changes the number if you use a number in the name. So that's nice. We'll call that clip 2. Let's log another one now. We'll start right there. Set in point. Go forward a little bit. Get that little zoom. When the zoom's done, we'll say set out, and I can do that on the fly here. I'll wait till it gets all the way out, set out. Okay, now I'll pause the tape. And we'll say, we'll log that clip. So now I've logged 2 clips, clip 2 and clip 3, but it actually hasn't captured them. If I close the capture window now, and I go back to the project panel, you'll see that there are 2 clips with question marks on them. Let me go to the list view so you can see that. If I select both of them by clicking on one and Control or Command, clicking on another, or shift clicking the other, and I've selected those 2, so I'm going to right click on here and say batch capture, and I'm going to do that and let it fast forward. The first part of the process is to go to this batch capture dialog box, and it says, do you want to capture with handles? Which means that you set the in and the out point, but you can say, you know, let's just have a few extra frames at the beginning and the end. So I'll say 15 frames at the beginning and the end, and I click OK. And now the capture process will begin. It says put in your demo tape, which is already there, so I click OK. And now it's going to go find those time codes and start the batch capture process, 1 clip at a time. This is when you go get a coffee or something if you've done a whole bunch of logging of tapes. So now it's getting the first clip, and it's going to put that clip inside the project panel. You can see it show up there now. It's clip 2. It no longer has a question mark next to it. And then here's clip 3. And there you go. It finished that process. And I click OK. There's a more automated way to do this. You can use scene detect. And the way that works is that Premiere Pro notices when you've clicked the pause or record button on your camcorder, and then we'll start a new scene at each of those points. So to do that, I click this little button over here, the scene detect button here or down here. Either case, it turns on scene detection. And then I change my clip number to something like 04. And what's going to happen is it'll start making new clips called 041, 042, 043, etc. as it finds each new scene. It's an automated way to do things, and it's much easier. So I'm going to start that process by clicking on the record button, and here we go. There's clip 0401. There's 02 because of the scene change. And let's see when 03 starts after a little zoom here. Finish the zoom, and now we're going to go to 03. Stand by. There you go. And you see it show up there. So it's recording this, it's capturing this to your hard drive, it's turning it into an AVI file, and then putting the link to it on your project panel. Once that zooms out, I'm going to click stop. There you go. So we're done there. Now, if you're working on a Mac, you won't be saving to AVI, you'll be saving to MOV, but the process is the same. So here are those clips inside the project panel, the ones we did originally, the 1, 2, and 3, and the ones we did automatically, 04, 01, 02, and 03. And these are also stored on your hard drive, and the links are created automatically. So that's how you capture digital videotapes into Premiere Pro.